I pray you are all doing well today, and we made it here to Shabbat. Barak Yahuah, truly. I'm glad to see each and every one of you here. Such a barakoth, a blessing, and yeah, very important topic we're going to go over today. It'll be the continuation. We're going to go over what mountains really are. This is going to just be more physical evidence that scriptures is absolute truth. And we're going to walk through quite a few verses. We got a lot to cover today. But first, I wanted to start off with some prayer, and then we're going to get right into some scriptures. And Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Callan wanted to say Shabbat Shalom as well.
Shabbat Shalom.
You can read if needed. Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, we missed y'all's reading, actually. We're speaking of that. So the next part is going to be all about the North, but next week we will probably continue with the Torah portions, and then after that, because there's so much scripture I have to get into about the importance of the North and so many different aspects. I know we've covered it a little bit, especially about the calendar and different aspects as well, but I want to get into a deep dive on exactly why the North is so important. And this is what we're going to go over today will reveal a little bit about that. So, yeah, Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, everyone's saying Shabbat Shalom, Callan. Aw. He is a handsome young lad, isn't he? All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Shabbat Shalom. All right, so we'll start it off with a prayer, and then we'll get right into it. Ready? Father, Abba Yahuah, we come to you in prayer to just thank you for all of your blessings, for allowing this fellowship to be, for just having a place for us to gather and to really look deeper into your word and your truths. I appreciate that so very much, and it's such a blessing. Also, please be with us to help to open our eyes and our ears to see your truths and know that your word is absolute truth. Please allow the Ruach to be here. Please place a hedge of protection around our fellowship here and a covering. We all need your help, Father. And I wanted to also pray for those struggling through different trials, tribulations, stresses, burdens, whatever it may be. Please give us the strength to be able to endure to the end. I pray all these things in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Let it be so. All right. So, Shabbat Shalom, Mishpaha. Good to see you all here. Where are we at here? So, wanted to get right into some scriptures. Yeah, Callan in the house, definitely. So, the verses we're going to go over here, I want everybody to just kind of pay special attention because in the video I put together, you're going to see why. But the cedars of Lebanon specifically, so I just wanted to read a little bit. This is from Bible Hub, of course, but there's some pretty pertinent information in here that we're going to go over. So, the cedars of Lebanon, known scientifically as Cedarus libani. There's more of that Latin speak that they'd like to do, but anyways, they're majestic trees that hold significant historical, cultural, and theological importance in the scriptural narrative. These trees are native to the mountains of Lebanon and are renowned for their durability, the fragrance, and impressive stature. In Scripture, the cedars of Lebanon are frequently mentioned, symbolizing strength, beauty, and the grandeur of Yahuah's creation. So the cedars of Lebanon, they're mentioned numerous times. We're going to go over a few verses, actually, throughout the Scriptures, often symbolizing power and majesty. And in the Old Testament, these trees are associated with the construction of significant structures, including the Temple of Solomon. And 1 Kings 5:6, Solomon requests cedar wood from Hiram, the king of Tyre, stating, "So give orders that cedars of Lebanon be cut for me. My servants will work with yours, and I will pay you for your servants whatever wages you place. For you know that we have no one skilled in felling timber as the Sidonians." So they're also used metaphorically to describe the righteous, the Kodesh, and the flourishing of Yahuah's people. So Psalm 92:12, the righteous, the Kodesh, will flourish like a palm tree and grow like a cedar in Lebanon. So this imagery conveys the idea of the Ruach, the strength that you get from the Ruach, from Yahuah, and resilience, and qualities that are as enduring as these mighty cedars themselves. So I just wanted to read a little bit through that, but here's some of the scriptures that I wanted to cover, and we just read Psalm 92:12, but there are so many times that just the word cedar is found in scripture, and these are this whole page, so we see 93 verses that include just the word cedar, but many of them are about these cedars of Lebanon. So Psalm 104:16 is actually going to be really important here. And it says, "The trees of Yahuah are watered abundantly, the cedars of Lebanon that he planted." Talking about Yahuah planted these cedars of Lebanon. This is why they're referenced so many times. And then we see Ezekiel 31:3, "Behold, Assyria was a cedar in Lebanon, with beautiful branches and forest shade, and of towering height, its top among the clouds." So this is all going to be very important to remember as we continue on here. Yeah, the cedar wood, it's there's a reason why it's valued. And let's see. Excuse me. So we have 2 Kings 19:23. "So by your messengers have you mocked Yahuah, and you have said, with my many chariots, I've gone up to the heights of the mountains, to the far recesses of Lebanon, and I felled its tallest tree, its tallest cedars, and its choicest cypress. I entered its farthest lodging place, its most fruitful forest." And then we read throughout Psalms here again, Psalm 92:14, speaking about these trees, "They still bear fruit in their old age, and they are ever full of sap and green." So a lot of stuff and importance that we see about these cedar trees that we're seeing all throughout scripture here. And 1 Kings 7:2, "He built a house of the forest of Lebanon. Its length was 100 cubits, and breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. And it was built on 4 rows of cedar pillars, with cedar beams on the pillars." So we see a whole lot about these cedar trees, how their heights are going to be among the clouds. Here specifically in Daniel 4:11. So this is about Nebuchadnezzar's dream. I wanted to read chapter 4, verses 10 through 12 here. And the only way to not be deceived in this little season is to be enveloped in Yahuah and scriptures. There's no other way to escape the little season of deception. And let Yahuah's word be truth and every man a liar. Look up, because the time is at hand. Well said, Sister Sumi. Boom. The only tree here we can mill. Yeah. So cedar wood, very important. So let me cover this real quick. So Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Excuse me. So it reads, in these visions of my mind, as I was lying in bed, I saw this come to pass. There was a tree in the midst of the land of the earth, and its height was great. So very important, because we've covered this in the past, that tree of life in the midst of Mount Zion, in the midst of the earth. But the tree grew large and strong. Its top reached the sky, and it was visible to the ends of the earth. Its leaves were beautiful, its fruit was abundant, and upon it was food for all. Under it, the beasts of the field found shelter. In its branches, the birds of the air nested, and from it, every creature was fed. So we see this is a very large tree. I believe this specifically is the tree of life. And we've spoken about this in the past, but the tree of life is just like that toroidal vortex in the center of the earth, in the midst of the earth, the importance of the north. So we're going to read a little bit about the Watchers, the fallen, the Nephilim. And this is going to be Enoch chapter 15. And this is also going to pertain and connect everything we've been talking about on this topic. And what we're going to see here, a lot of this is very important and will pertain to, well, what I'm going to show in this video that I'm going to play here next. So, chapter 15, Book of Enoch. And he answered and said to me, and I heard his voice, fear not, Enoch, you righteous man and scribe of righteousness. Approach and hear my voice, and go say to the watchers of heaven, the King Jimmy throws me off here, sorry guys, who have sent you to intercede for them. You should intercede for men, and not men for you. Wherefore you have left the high Kodesh and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourself with the daughters of men, and taken yourselves wives, and done like the children of the earth, and begotten giants as your sons. And though you were Kodesh, spiritual, living the eternal high, the life, you have defiled yourselves with the blood of women, and have begotten children with the blood of flesh. And as the children of men have lusted after flesh and blood, as those also do who die and perish. Therefore, I have given them wives also, that they might impregnate them, and beget children by them, that thus nothing might be wanting to them on earth. So what we're reading here is also what Messiah is quoting as he's telling the Pharisees they don't know Scripture. He's quoting this directly from Enoch. Let me continue here. But you were formerly spiritual, living the eternal life, and immortal for all generations of the world. And therefore I have not appointed wives for you. For as the spiritual ones of heaven, in heaven is their dwelling. One moment, need some water. So, and now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men, and from the Kodesh watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on the earth, And evil spirits, they shall be called. So these are these demons, these unclean Ruach, the ones that, affect all of us. So as for the spirits of the Shamayim, in heaven shall be their dwelling. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth, on the earth shall be their dwelling. So just kind of remember this specific verse as well, verse 10. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offenses. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they proceeded from them. The only way to survive the uprooting of the little season is to possess the exact qualities of the true Lebanese cedar. Deep, hidden roots anchored in the scriptures, and an incorruptible, rot-resistant faith that refuses to decay under the atmospheric pressure of global deception. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that, Sumi. I mean, that is pretty true. But let's continue here, chapter 16, Book of Enoch. So from the days of the slaughter and destruction and death of the giants, from the souls of whose flesh the spirits, having gone forth, shall destroy without incurring judgment. Thus shall they destroy until the day of consummation, the great judgment, in which the age shall be consummated over the watchers, and the godless, yea, shall be wholly consummated. And now, as to the watchers who have sent thee to intercede for them, who had been aforetime in the Shamayim. So really what he's saying here, verse 1, is these bodies, because they no longer have bodies, their bodies will remain on earth until this day of judgment. The day of judgment that, we see is written all throughout scriptures. We see it in Enoch so many times. But their bodies will remain, is what he's speaking to us here about. So continuing, so say to them, the watchers, that you have been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not yet been revealed to you, and you knew worthless ones. And these, in the hardness of your hearts, you have made known to the women. And through these mysteries, women and men work much evil on earth. Say to them, therefore, you have no shalom. So we see this is the offspring, what the watchers are, these evil ruach that we know as demons, unclean spirits, things like that. And I want to get into the Book of Jubilees here next. And this is going to be, chapter 4, verse 15. And it says, in the second week of the 10th Jubilee, Mahalalel took unto him to wife Dinah, the daughter of Barachiel, the daughter of his father's brother. And she bare him a son in the 3rd week in the 6th year. And he called his name Yared. For in his days the Malachim, the angels of Yahuah, descended on the earth, those who are named the Watchers, that they should instruct the children of men, and that they should do judgment and uprightness on the earth. So we see in the days of Yared, this is when the Watchers descended upon the earth. And then this is chapter 5. Chapter 5, Book of Jubilees, and verse 6. And against the angels who he had sent upon the earth, he was exceedingly wroth. And he gave a commandment to root them out of all their dominion. And he bade us to bind them in the depths of the earth. And behold, they are bound in the midst of them, and they are kept separate. So, if you know the book of Enoch, I know we've read through it here, but this is that chamber also in Sheol that was made for these angels and things like that Enoch saw. But as we can see these Nephilim, where they came from. We can see there was giant trees. If you remember, towards the end of last week, we went over the melted buildings, things like that. And I'm going to give, like I said, more of my hypothesis towards the end. But this is all linking back to Yahuah. It's physical evidence of his existence, that his word is truth. There's no other way around it, really. But so I want to share this video next. And let's see, here we go. So it's a video I put together. I've made quite a few clips in here myself to show these connections, but this is really going to show visually everything I'm speaking about here. And let me go ahead. I will mute the mic here and let me just check chat really quickly. All right. So I'll just go ahead and mute my mic and we'll begin right here. This is going to be some very fascinating revelations here that I'm about to show you all. So, man, I'm excited. All right, here we go. So let's take a look at this rock formation known as the King of Wings. As you can see, it looks very similar to an axe laying on top of a tree stump. Just as you can see by this comparison here. We see the curved handle, the cutting blade, and look how massive this axe would have to have been. I believe this is physical proof of what Scripture states about the Nephilim giants that once existed. Right here for all of us to see. It's truly remarkable. This is just more proof of Yahuah's existence and how Scriptures are absolutely fact. This next one is what's known as the Devil's Tower. They claim it's a lava formation. When have you seen lava flow straight up in a column? Doesn't it rather remind you of this tree stump? Really, just compare for yourself. This is absolute proof, physical evidence of what is written in Scripture, the word of Yahuah. There was giant trees that existed. There was giant Nephilim beings. All of these images, if you compare them, they look exactly like this Devil's Tower formation. It's really remarkable. And this goes so deep. I believe all the mountains that we see are either trees, cities, or the bodies of the giant Titan Nephilims.
So you see up there, that's all part of one branch that goes back. All the pieces and parts everywhere. Everything under this grassland. Let me show you this little section here. And it goes all the way up there. It's everywhere. But this piece for some reason is well preserved. And let me show you it. I don't understand how some areas are so well preserved and others have all the moss and lichen on it. And there's your sap quartz. all the different rings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a small section. And then you see, just like the cedar today that I'm showing you, with the deep grooves. And this is all it does. Oh. It goes down into the ground. You see up here. It's everywhere. It's all along that ridge, all the way, as far as the eye can see. This is what everything should look like, or close to it. Although some areas have some of the grain, different colored grains. Oh my gosh. The color in it is so beautiful.
This is the giant petrified snake at Naka Cave in Thailand. Even the local people there believe this is a true snake. This is no mere rock formation. It has the head, the body, the tail of the snake. It coils around itself. Again, this is just more evidence of the giant Nephilim beings that we read about all throughout Scripture. This is more evidence of the lies that they tell us about our history, about our realm, about what even rock formations and mountains are. This is only the tip of the iceberg. Check out these valleys where you can see the body of the snake coiling around itself. There's so much archaeological evidence.
Hello, and welcome to Unveiling a Titan, the first of what will be several videos in a series in which I hope to provide conclusive proof that Titans actually existed, or at the very least, a lot of compelling evidence that will spark curiosity. This is a famous mountain on the east coast of Spain, in the Costa Blanca, that's called Montgo. It's also known as the elephant. So you can see the shape of the head here, the upper back, and then tapering off. And in fact, there's a plateau here that's higher than the town in this area that looks a lot like a trunk that's been extended when you see it from the right angle. I've been hiking this mountain for about 8 years now. I've been inside of the eye on numerous occasions. There are several other caves that I've also been in. But it's really only been for the last year that I've been looking at this mountain with different eyes, and I was exposed to some new ideas that caused me to look at it differently, and I began gathering evidence. I've taken lots of photographs and videos. I've been in places that I probably shouldn't have been, and even injured myself a couple of times. About a year ago, I got exposed to the idea of Titans. It wasn't the first time. As a kid, I was exposed to the mythology, the Greek mythologies, and, watched this movie, The Clash of the Titans, saw the Kraken get turned to stone by the Medusa's head. And I ran across a couple of videos by Mud Fossils University talking about the idea that fossilization could happen much, much faster than we realized. Also looking at the idea that there was probably a worldwide flood that involved a great deal of mud that caused lots of creatures to be encased and then eventually fossilized. Another video by Jade Dreamers did this Petrified Titans video, which was very fascinating, and he made a pretty interesting case, I felt, for the possibility that Titans actually existed. And that was a real surprise to me, because I grew up near a mountain in California called Chief's Peak, and it looks a lot like an Indian lying on its back, and I was always fascinated by the resemblance, but it never really occurred to me that, well, maybe it was. So I started seeing photographs like this and others, and it definitely sparked my imagination. This is Paul Bunyan with his buddy Blue, I believe, the big ox. The myth goes that the Grand Canyon was formed by him dragging his axe behind him, and he used to go around North America cutting down gigantic trees with his axe. So maybe there's some truth to that tale. So one of the first things a skeptic will think when they look at these kinds of pictures is that people are suffering from something known as pareidolia, which is when you see things that aren't really there. You look up at a cloud and you see a dragon or a face or something, and obviously that's not really in the cloud. And so it's easy to make the same mistake when you're looking at these kinds of photographs. But in Jay Dreamer's video, I started thinking a little differently when I photographs like this, because I've been living near this mountain that is known as the Elephant for the last 8 years, and when I saw these images I thought, maybe it's not just a mountain that looks like an elephant. Maybe there's actually more to it than that. So some of these might just be rocks that take that shape, that form, but you never know. Some of them might actually be fossilized elephants. And if that's the case, then everything we know about geology is based on erroneous thinking, and we need to start to revisit these different ologies. And in the last year and a half since I first got exposed to this idea, a lot of other interesting topics have come along. The idea that maybe our entire historical timeline has been manipulated and large segments of time have been injected. A lot of people are studying the works of Anatoly Fomenko, who makes those suppositions. The topic of star forts is incredibly fascinating, these gigantic star complexes that are found on every continent all around the world. The lost civilization of Tartaria, which is, it's mind-boggling, really, to consider that the largest empire in the history of humanity is something that isn't even touched on in our history books. And it's easily provable. There's a plethora of information out there, ancient maps and photographic evidence, all sorts of things that suggest that our understanding of our history has been manipulated. There are even people who suppose that giant trees existed that were, along the likes of Avatar, and a lot of this ties back into the mud flood idea, which is that there was once a major flood that swept across the entire world and covered up most everything living in its wake, and so that's how I got on this topic originally. I'll just give you a little overview. This is my plan for this video series. For those of you who are impatient, I'll just show you this right off the bat. This is a list of the different coincidences that I've compiled, and if you're interested in reading this, you can pause the video and do that. So obviously I don't want to suffer from pareidolia, and so when I started looking into this mountain, I decided I would look at it from a scientific perspective. I have a degree in medicine, and I've studied a lot of histology, and histology is the study of tissues. And the interesting thing about studying histology when you're looking at a mountain that's 5 kilometers long is that you don't need a microscope, because you're so small that you are the microscope. So I've been going around for the last year taking tissue samples in the forms of videos and photographs, and I'll be sharing those in this video series. This is the list of what I'm planning on doing. So in this video I'm going to do an overview of the mountain, Mont Go, also known as the elephant. And in the next video, I'm going to take a deep look into the eye of Moltko, and you'll see the eye in just a moment. And in the third video, I plan on going deep into the ear as well. And the fourth video, if you're still with me for that, that'll probably be broken up into several parts because it's a big topic, studying the different rocks and how they relate to the mountain and how they would relate to fossilized tissue. And then I hope to do a fifth video that is looking at what is the official story behind the mountain, and maybe even perhaps interview a geologist and talk to some of the people who really know this mountain. It's a national park, and there's a lot of mainstream study that's been done. And then where I'll go from there is a mystery at this point. So again, if you're interested in this topic, I'm not going to go in depth into the whole fossilization process, but there is a guy named Girolamo Segato in the 1800s in Italy who was known to be able to petrify human flesh. So this guy's technique died with him, and it's a painful process to rebuild it, I suppose. But he was able to fossilize flesh. And obviously it didn't take thousands of years like we're told the fossilization process takes. Okay, so let's go into the mountain here. So obviously from this side is the side that it looks most like an elephant. You've got the shape that I already talked about in the opening there, and you saw some of the clips from the opening video that will give you their little teasers. The eye is interestingly placed. Hold on, let me get closer to it. And the anatomy of an elephant's skull we'll look at in just a moment. But I've been inside this eye on numerous occasions. There are caves along here. There's a cave here, which is very interestingly placed. But first, let's back up and just look at the mountain as a whole. So if we look at it from this side, most people can imagine that it looks like an elephant. The interesting thing is from this angle, if we look at it, you can see it looks like a head here, and there's even a cutout right where you would expect the neck to be. So the head ends, neck, and then this would be the shoulder. And when you see it from this angle, it becomes more evident. Now the interesting thing is from this side, you've got the same thing, another cutout here. So from above, it really does look like an elephant's head turned slightly to the right with cutouts for the neck on both sides. And this would be obviously the spine. And if we look down here, this is a deep canyon, and it's perfectly placed for the separation between two legs, one here and one here. And I'm not sure if this is the extension of the leg or if they're underneath this mound or what's happened exactly there. But as we look around on this side, can really see the pattern of what look like ribs. And there's also been a lot of erosion here. So if we look at it from above, you can see the skirt of the mountain on this side is literally about twice the size of the skirt on this side. And that's because there's been a lot more runoff and erosion there. If we continue around, looking at the front of the head, you might be thinking, well, that doesn't look much like an elephant at all, because this area here has all collapsed. And we can see that when we look from above, there's a major runoff here going down. And geologists who study this mountain have actually talked about this section of the mountain being particularly interesting because there's what's known as a synclinal here. So this is proof that this entire section of the mountain has collapsed. And that's an interesting thing. I'll show you why here. If we look at the anatomy picture. So we'll go through some of these pictures real quick. So if you look at an elephant skeleton, you think of the skeleton, or the elephant is lying on its stomach, then obviously this part would be tilted back. And that's really what we see when we look at Moltko from the side. You've got this point here, the head and the upper back are very close to each other, as if this was tilted upward. This is a mammoth skeleton, and an elephant skeleton. So mammoths and elephants very similar, but there are wide variations in the skeletal structure of both mammoths, elephants, and the skulls vary dramatically from one species to another. We'll see more of that later. So this is what I want you to be thinking of when we're looking at this. Now, the elephant, Montgo, I see it as lying on its stomach. And if we look at an elephant from the inside, this is known as the viscera, all the organs, these are going to be soft. And so all of that is going to flatten out, and you'll see that in a second here. So this is an elephant carcass that's rotting away, and you can see how things are starting to sag, and they've all flattened out, but the bone structure is what really remains. Sorry for the awful images if it makes you queasy, but this is important to understand that all of this, the skirts on the side of the mountain, may be the flattening out of the viscera. This is a mammoth skull that's been encased in mud, and so if you imagine that on a larger scale, then that may be what we have here. An elephant lying on its stomach, another elephant lying on its stomach. So this image again from above, looking at the head shape, the back, and the legs, and I don't know, maybe the right back leg was buried underneath. We'll get more into this in a moment, but this is interesting. So if you look at the eye placement, and this muscle here, this is known as the temporalis muscle. Humans have this as well. The eye here, there's a little hole right here, which is very interesting, and the ear hole. Now this is a horrible picture because this elephant has been shot, but you can see with it laying down how the leg can bend underneath and the trunk can be out in front, and I believe that's what we're seeing when we're seeing the plateau here, because this is all above this area here below, which is the town. This is not a gunshot wound. This is actually a gland called the Must gland that's secreting, and when the elephants are in heat, I guess I don't know if you call it heat, but if they're sexually excited or if they're afraid, they'll secrete from this gland, and they get very aggressive, and you don't want to be around them when they're doing that. This picture, it looks like he's smiling. I like that. Here you can see the head really comes up more on this particular species of elephant, and I think that's more like what we're seeing here with Montgo. And here we get into the skulls. This is very interesting because if you look, this is the breathing passage, and this is also where the trunk connects. And it's a huge hole. And if we look again from the front of the mountain, and again, this is that area that has collapsed, and I've got lots of pictures and video, and I've hiked on this whole region. This is like a river of jagged rock, this entire area here. So there's clearly been a major collapse of this part of the mountain, and that's exactly where I would expect there to be a collapse, is right where there's a big giant cave. That would be the weakest point of the whole structure. Here you've got the ridge line of the skull. This has been maintained, but this is all collapsed. So that's the breathing passage. Here is the eye socket, and this is again the temporalis muscle, and this is known as the infraorbital foramen. This is where the nerves come from for the control of the trunk. Humans have this as well. All of the vertebrates have this little notch, but it's placed differently in humans. Let me find it real quick here. So you can see on humans it's here. There it is right there. 26 bones in the human head. I don't know how many are in the elephant's head, but all of those bones are connected by sutures, which are just areas where the bones eventually fuse together. So this is bigger on elephants because the nerve passing through here has to control the trunk, and its location is particularly interesting because it's right about there. Here you see it again. A different skull, different shape to the nasal passage, completely different shape to the temporalis fossa. This is known as the zygomatic arch. There are two sutures here, so this is the first thing that would break off, and I believe that's what's happened when we see the mountain. You can kind of get a hint that maybe it was there. This may have been where the tusks came out. There's a suggestion of the remnants of the zygomatic arch there as well, right there. Another head that's been captured in mud and fossilized. And this really, when we're looking at Montco, this is probably about the best picture I can find. You can barely make out the infraorbital foramen there, the eye socket. There you can see the sutures for the zygomatic arch, and the big temporalis fossa. And that would be here, temporalis fossa. And really a good view of the infraorbital foramen. So let's take a look at that. If we look in here, I mean, the question is, how many coincidences does it take before, there starts to be evidence, right? Does it just look like an elephant, or was it an elephant? Obviously if the shape and the cave are there, that's just, that's a coincidence. But then when you start to get things like, cutouts on both sides, right where you would expect the neck. The eye has a cave right where you would expect there to be an infraorbital foramen, especially if the skull has tilted backwards, which it would have to if it was lying in this position. I've already hinted at it with the video list I gave you, but there's an ear as well. This would be an ear attachment, and there's even a cave in here, which I found in the most unusual way. So I'll talk about that in the third video. But inside this cave, I can tell you, it doesn't just look like the eye. There are literally a dozen different quote-unquote coincidences about this eye, which I'll go into in detail in the next video. But there are caves in here that I've explored with a friend, and there are sutures, there are a number of different things. So it's the coincidences start stacking up, and that's what you have to ask yourself, is how many coincidences does it take before we start to have a possibility, a probability, and at what point does it become a preponderance of evidence? I know that Roger from Mud Fossils University has done, I think, 3 different genetic tests based on different samples that he's found, and they've all come back with humanoid DNA. So one thing, here's another thing, if we're just going to look at an overview. See all this red earth right here? Interesting. Here as well. What you find is that if you turn any stone over on this plateau, it is all bright red earth everywhere you look. And I think that this is the runoff of blood, and we'll talk more about that. In the 4th video, I'm going to be going into the histology, the tissues, and looking in depth at different rocks. I've got photos and video of those as well. Yeah, so I think that is a good introduction. So let me just look at my notes, see if I've forgotten anything. There are definitely some surprises that await, and if you stick with it, I think you'll, like me, you'll end up getting goosebumps on your arms with some of this stuff. Just go through the rest of these. So this is a bear, and you can see the bear has a huge nasal passage also, even though it doesn't have a trunk. But here, again, you see this infraorbital foramen, which I believe we have right here. And in fact, I'll do a little teaser right now, and we'll go in and look at a couple of the pictures here. This is the infraorbital foramen, looking through it. So it has a very organic feel. The rock. We'll come back to this in the next video. And this is mammoth once again. And this is what I was talking about with the sutures before. 26 bones in the human head. I would guess it's something similar, because most of the vertebrate skeletons, even though there are a lot of variations when it comes to the morphology, the shape of them, more or less the structures are the same, and the kinds of bones that are found as well. Okay, so if you are looking for conclusive proof, here it is. All right, I hope you enjoy the video. Oh, by the way, subscribe and click the bell if you want to be notified for the next videos when they're released.
So in this short video, I'm going to prove once and for all that when I talk about the periodic table and the metals and minerals coming from these biblical trees, and that the quartz is the petrified sap. And the gold and quartz always run together. And if the quartz is the petrified sap and the gold runs with it, there's a common denominator. But it goes so much deeper than that. So I'm going to show you 3 things. This here is not really recognizable to most people. They walk through. I'll show you towards the end of this video the characteristics of the cedar. You see there's just some radius rings. Come right over here. This is just where it was injured. This is quartz. Comes in different colors. Gold and quartz and copper run together, a lot of the precious metals. And they take these tree remains of different trees, they crush them, they process them, they mine them, and that's where they get the metals and minerals from. You see, this is not the original color, but I'll show you that here in a second. And you'll have no doubt what I just told you about the gold. As crazy as it sounds. It's like trying to tell you that dog's a chicken. I know that sounds crazy, but it's not. It's self-evident. That's a dog, not a chicken. It's just right here, so hold on. And as I said, everything under this grassland, as far as the eye can see, you know, stuff like this don't look recognizable because it's discolored, it's worn, it's rounded, it's weathered, discolored. But I'll show you. We're actually up on a branch right now on the top. Okay. The road's down there. It curves up and around. See, there's some quartz. They'll call it a quartz outcropping. All this, they'll call it a quartz outcropping. So you come here, this don't really look all that recognizable. But I've shown you so many times the ledges and edges and how the fibers are of the tree, just how they break down. It's really hard to distinguish what it is other than the characteristics of the fibers. So you come over here, I'm actually at the wrong spot, but anyway, the cedar has all the deep grooves. I've shown that in a lot of my videos. The piece I want to show you right here. Actually, there's 2 pieces, one right behind me and this one. I'm going to show you. First off, this is quartz. Gold runs with that. It was not deposited. None of it was. You come around over here, some of it's recognizable, some of it's not. So let me show you this. Okay? So you see up under here. Okay? It's all part of the tree. Okay? You come up under here. This doesn't even look petrified. Come up under here and you see there's the sap. That's the quartz. This looks like just fresh, like driftwood you find down at the river. It's so preserved. This is just a small piece. These come this size, as large as an apartment building. And as I've always said in my videos, it's just one of them little pieces that break down from the fracture, the way the tree breaks down. But there's all your sap. That's actual quartz. Or vice versa, it's quartz, but it's actually tree sap in these biblical trees. Just gonna show you some close-up pictures, and then we'll go to the other one that shows even a better color. And I'll show you the characteristics of the cedar. That's so beautiful right there. It shows a lot of the original grain. Like I say, the trees are like fibers. It's just trying to heal itself from the damage. Okay, we're gonna move on. I'll show you this piece real quick. There's more of the sap, but this has all the lichen and discoloration on it. Here you'll see the true color of what all this is, and everything I've been showing you. It's right here. So you see up under here. So I'll show you here in a minute when the video ends, the deep grooves. And you see here's sap, which is quartz, and the gold runs in this. Okay, let's go around here. Let me stand back. You see this is just sap, quartz. You see here are some of the rings that are beautiful red. That is absolutely beautiful color. Hard to believe that quartz is a petrified sap, but they lie about everything. So let me show you this real quick. I'll show you some of the characteristics of the cedar. Just the way the twists and turns. This is not petrified. But you see the grooves in the cedar. It's the same exact identical thing. And they always have the cool twists and turns. And you see there, this is not petrified. But I told you that the deep grooves in the cedar. I'm right here, I'll show you another piece of cedar. That is not petrified. Here you'll see the characteristics of the cedar, the way they got all the twists and turns. The way they do that. So I'll show you a piece up here. See how this does that? It's just the characteristics of the cedar. So you come right here. See this curving going up. Maybe you can see it better up here. See how this is going like that? It's just a small section, and no matter where you go, it's just pieces and parts everywhere. I told you, like the grooves I just told you about on the cedar, it's the same thing. That is sap. That turned quartz. And the gold is in it. It was not deposited by two colliding stars billions of years ago. It's ridiculous. Alright. I hope this shows you the truth.
Oh Lord, how shall I make a video? The Lord says, just fucking make it. Sorry, he's right. Just do it, like some bastards once said. I don't know if they even said it. Are any companies not owned by this organization? I think a great way to bring down the controllers is to stop spending, stop participating. But that's not what this video is about. Thanks for being here, and welcome. I want to start out with an Emily Suzanne video. It's still not what the video's about, but I think it's a great place to start. She did some boots on the ground at a cement kiln, the Copley, Pennsylvania cement kilns. Cement, lime, coke, whatever they want to call these kilns. Ovens, essentially. Ovens, let's be clear. Old-ass ovens. Sir, I've asked you to build an oven. What is this? Oh, sorry, I thought I would build some castles. Some castle ovens. Well, it's a little more than we need, but they are beautiful. So yeah, I've never seen these ovens. I've never even seen an oven like this before. It was one thing to see 200 domes out in the middle of the desert, Utah, just poking out of the mud. But this? How could you even call these ovens? And whatever they are, built from 1892 to 1893. Whatever. Again, I could live in one of these, and so could you. If you were just thinking about the necessities of life, they look more like lighthouses. I just don't know what they look like, actually. They don't look like anything I've seen, and they certainly don't look like ovens. They've clearly been patched up many times. A lot of these archways have been bricked up, and there's so much stuff we can focus on. I mean, in this field of research, there's the notion that they were built in a year, first of all. Even one would be impressive to build in a year, but 8 or 9? Then there's the condition of the brick. So much going on. So many different stages and damage. We see trees sprouting out of the top of the tower, all over really. And again, Emily Suzanne visited this firsthand, telling us all the details details of the history of these kilns, built in 1 year. The kilns were said to be constructed from local brick and are known as chauffeur vertical kilns. Chauffeur, if you chauffe something in French, you're heating it, chauffer. They were shut down in 1904, according to history. So built in a year, shut down after 11 years. Then they were donated to Lee County in 1975. Big gap there. Big gap. 75 years later, oh, what should we do with these? Come on, just donate them. And they created a cement industry museum out of them. And in 1980 was finally appreciated and added to the National Register of Historic Places. Just completely backwards. So here we go. Of course I know nothing, but I have no shame in asking questions. Were these really built in 1 year? Were they really ever intended to be cement-making ovens? Are we even seeing the whole structure? Or is this just the top and clearly see more goes down underground? And lastly, what the hell happened to this brick? I mean, this brick is turning into sandstone, so cooked, and just in random places, not even around where the heat should be. And it might be a good case to study melted brick. The in-between stage is where we can discover the most. In between brick and rock. But I'm not going to use this as an example. I just wanted to share this place with you. Let me know if you've seen any structures that look like this anywhere in the world, or ovens. In the center of our realm, to the north, wherever you are, there is said to be a black rock, a magnetic black rock, so strong that it will rip nails out of wooden ships that approach. It is quite possible that this landmass in the north is where we come from. Here I was watching another video by a Catherine Gregory, I think that's her name, forgive me, and these Native American ruins. The Native Americans will tell you they didn't build these structures. They're from a past people, that's all there is to it. They'll tell you. Some call them the Anasazi, just the old people. The Navajo say that these people were kind of evil, or had been corrupted, similar to our culture today. And here's a picture I screenshotted from Our Melted Reality, and he does a great job of finding bricks that are turning to stone, just that in-between sweet spot I'm talking about. Here's one example, here's another example. Here you can see the brick lines, brick line, now fused into a blob, just like bread, just like rolls. And of course the melted mountain in San Francisco shows this as well. One more quick look, the bricks sandwiched into the mountain. I mean, it becomes clear, right? Unless you're unwilling to really consider what you're seeing here. Recently I will have shared this lime kiln, or what's left of it, in Nevada, this little fence around it. And this really got me interested again in my backyard. I think wherever we live, we get kind of jaded and everything becomes ordinary. We see things like this in nature. And I decided to go down south to a national park. The national park is called Arches, and I'm going to show you what I experienced here. And I wasn't looking for arches. I was looking for evidence, and we'll have a look at that now. So I'm concerned with the various stages again. This condition, for example, is actually in great condition. Why? Because we have these pockets of preservation or survival. Here we see a window, here one behind the arch, porch, a shelf, which I'll show you Chief and I walking along, a nice big sidewalk, much larger than this one. But we see the blockage. We even see the hue of red brick. We see the brick lines back here. And the more it's heated, the more it fuses and goes blob, turns into what we call rock or mountain. This is an example that I look forward to exploring very soon, very soon. This is in New Mexico, Bandelier National Monument. And here again, this is in really good shape because we still see windows, we still have inner cavities you can explore, and not something, in my opinion, that was carved by Native Americans. This is not carvable, not with primitive tools. A lot to say about this picture, but I'll move on to Sodom and Gomorrah in the Holy Land, and this is where it gets interesting. This really resembling the southwest of North America, very Utah, and really everywhere. The Badlands. This can be found all throughout the realm. Examples like this. The difference is we have a biblical story that this was a city of Sodom and Gomorrah. Again, like the Native Americans speak of their ancestors or predecessors, the Anasazi, being evil and worldly, and essentially wiping themselves out through wars. We have the same thing happening here, except we're told God wipes out this city because they were so evil and whatever. But we have a story. We have a story that this was a city. That's my point. And you can really see the city, especially as a student of meltology. You begin to see the towers, the building, just brought down, cooked, and out here turned into powder. Really, this is a bad example, except we have the story. And this is a great example in Turkey. Turkey has a lot of good examples. And here we can see something very advanced at one point, now turned into a blobous rocky mountain spilling over the corner of this once what must have been a beautiful building. And again, Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, some of the best examples can be found in Petra, in Jordan. Here we can see the same thing. Section, cooked out, almost having a Native American feel, similar to what we saw at Bandelier National Monument, but much more preserved. All of this above will have been the same thing, but this was all spared. We see it continues, and again we're told this is primitive, very similar to the Native American story, that natives carved this, in this case goat herders, only to abandon it. But when you have eyes to see, you realize that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, perhaps 6-story building, and that's just what we see, in worse condition at the top. And now we're going to look at some Utah, and we're going to see these same sections, but in really bad condition. Perhaps before I get into it, I should read you the story. The story on how all these formations were created. Again, I'm proposing that all of these were structures that have been turned into this blobous state through an extreme cataclysmic event, perhaps within an hour. But I wanted to show you what history or mainstream geology has to say about this. So here we go. Let's just look at this picture before we even read any of their BS. Here we go. How do these arches form in Utah? This is going to be their explanation. And look at how we start out with example number 1. So that's it. And the truth is, yes. I mean, they're not going to say it's the truth, but yes. Right at the beginning, we do see blockage, formations, square and intelligent. So they tell us the park sits on an underground salt bed, and it's responsible for all this. Thousands of feet thick, the salt was deposited 300 million years ago. Just stupid. When the sea flowed into the region and eventually evaporated. Over millions of more years from floods, winds, debris was compressed as rock, a mile thick on top of the salt. So this doesn't even make sense. The debris was compressed from the water. Why didn't it just compress in a big chunk? Why these perfect blocks? Well, they need these perfect blocks to fit with their story as to how water is going to get in here and shape it like a piece of clay. And whatever, you can read this. It makes me sick, but here it is. And I should start at the beginning, but I just want to show you one little example. Does this look like it took millions of years, or does this look like it just got hot and melted like putty? It seems pretty clear that this is melted. This has nothing to do with the story they're telling us. This is what my eggs look like after I go collect them. Pretty muddy. Here we could see what I think some people would call cart ruts all over. And my impressions of this park was kind of a mixed basket. In one way, it was also beautiful, and I was seeing it as a tourist. And in another sense, I was seeing it as a graveyard. The same things we see in Turkey, but again in worse condition. The separate sections have been heated, so much more so than in Turkey that it's almost unrecognizable. However, lots of areas in this park are off limits, and I could see evidence of caves and what look like windows. Even here, window, 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 just completely pancaked. Again, a row of windows above it, even in worse condition. But yet we can access a lot of this, if we were allowed. And just like we see in Jordan, in Petra, the top is in worse condition than the middle. And oftentimes the bottom is in really rough condition too. Here at Arches National Park, we see the blockage on the bottom third still being in pretty good shape. As you can see a little bit of here and here as well. You see the bottom has stayed block, but up top here has fused into solid block. Still seeing the lines, the windows that have now become little slits. Still seeing grand archways that have filled in with hot melted debris. And I think to most people this would be unrecognizable. And I think that's why they made it a park. Again, making other parts off limits. And if it is recognizable, again, they'll put a little wooden ladder next to one of the window openings and tell us it's Native American. They do it all the time. The evidence is all around us. But if you package a story and claim to be an expert, the brain kind of shuts down. At least at first. And we see the difference, sometimes red blobs and sometimes pure white ones, as we see here. And here again, structures. It's similar to the Grand Canyon, the way they want to tell us that water, similar to this place, that water essentially washed this rock away to make these shapes. But I want you to look at this arch here. Look at how square this is. This is not the result of millions of years of water slowly, softly wearing away at the grains of sand. No. This is all sharp. And same with the Grand Canyon. Look at the direction the water flows and then look at those canyon walls. They're not smooth and soft. And it's the same with this place. And see, I'm just reviewing this photo now for the first time, and I realize there's a little access here. So you can see most of the windows have blobbed over, and we have a little opening. This was the Devil's Garden campground. There's also a beautiful Devil's Garden in Colorado. Here you can see the moon, and I woke up super early, which is perfect. This is the best hour, similar to sunset, for shooting pictures, and it's just a really sacred time in general. Chief and I walked out on this ridge, way out here. And he knew how early it was. He was like, what are we doing up here? But it was really interesting to get this perspective. Somebody recently proposed that our feelings are an action, that we are making our feelings and not a victim of them. And I get this. There was a point where perhaps I had overly mourned, and I began to realize it was affecting my health, possibly those around me. I feel like this, I feel like that. It is you doing. And as difficult as it is to accept, it is something that we're in control of. I found these trips, a trip anywhere, even to a truck stop, brought joy to my soul. It always has. And so I've decided to begin taking more trips. This was just one of many. I want to thank my Patreons. I thank you if you've watched this far. I think I've said a lot, and in all fairness, I'll end with the mainstream narrative that I skipped over, very dismissively. As always, I don't know. These are just my thoughts, and if I knew everything, I might have nothing to say. So they begin. Water and ice, extreme temperatures, and underground salt movement are responsible for the sculpted rock scenery of Arches National Park. On clear, blue sky days, it's difficult to imagine such violent forces, or the 100 million years of erosion that created this land, boasting one of the world's greatest densities of natural arches. Over 2,000 catalogued arches range in size from a 3-foot opening to the longest, measuring 306 feet base to base. Towering spires, pinnacles, and balanced rocks perched atop seemingly inadequate bases vie with the arches as scenic spectacles. Sorry, I think this is poorly written. New features are being formed as old ones are destroyed. Erosion and weathering work slowly but relentlessly, creating dynamic landforms that gradually change through time. Change sometimes occurs more dramatically. In 1991, a rock slab 60 feet long, 11 feet wide, and 4 feet thick fell from the underside of Landscape Arch, leaving behind an even thinner ribbon of rock. Archaic people and later ancestral Puebloan, Fremont, and Utes searched the arid desert for animals and wild plants for food and stone for tools and weapons. Some of their pictographs and petroglyph panels remain today. Hopi, Paiute, Navajo, Ute, and Zuni people remain connected to this landscape. I didn't see one native, probably because the fee to get in is $30. The first non-native explorers came looking for minerals. Ranchers found grasses for cattle and sheep. Disabled Civil War veteran John Wesley Wolfe and his son Fred settled here in the late 1800s. A weathered log cabin, root cellar, and corral are evidence of the primitive ranch they operated for over 20 years. A visit to the Wolf Ranch is a walk into the past. More on the formations, they tell us they stand like a layer of cake over most of the park. Over time, water seeped into cracks, joints, and folds. Ice formed in the fissures, expanding and pressuring the rock, breaking off bits and pieces. Wind later cleaned out the cavities. Many of these finally collapsed. So there we go. This is all I have to say. A little look at a place I've never been, my thoughts, and their thoughts. So I thank you for joining me. I thank everyone that supports. I love you all. God bless, and I'll see you next week.
Guys, yesterday I put up a video about what looks like a massive ancient tree and evidence of branches and leaves laying next to a huge stump. In fact, one of the leaves measured taller than the Empire State Building. I want to take you to the location now, and here we go. And the area that we are looking at is north central Madagascar, right in this area here. There are more than one example of what look like to me ancient tree stumps with quite possibly large branches and large leaves in some cases, laying next to some of these very huge structures. This is one that I showed you guys yesterday. Measure this thing and you can look at the side view even. On Google Earth here, we'll go side to side. There's the stump. 4,000 foot on this side over here, go across. A little taller on this side, about 4,150 feet. It's over 8 miles wide. Look at the miles, 8.45 miles. We could set the entire city of Nashville and all of its suburbs right there quite comfortably. If you go to the left, which would be about the 10, 11 o'clock position, all over in this area, you'll find what look like leaves and branches all over the ground. Here's an example of one here. There's many, many, many examples. This one here we're going to measure real quick. And I'll show you just to kind of put things in perspective how long that thing is compared to something that's very tall. So we'll measure from top to bottom. And we'll go in feet, 1,596 feet. That one branch is taller than the Empire State Building we showed in a video earlier. right there. I think it's the same exact branch that's on the ground, taller than the Empire State Building. And there's others. There's many others. So if you look around, you'll also find many more examples of these leaves, like right here, big, huge branches. To me, they look like something in the cedar family. Obviously, this is in a league all of its own. Nothing like what we know today. I mean, we think 200 feet's tall. Can you imagine if this thing's got, which it does, it looks like it's got this is a pretty good example here, and that's a cedar. 8 mile wide base, look there. Good example. And that looks like, to me, a cedar. But the base of that one that I showed you is 8 miles wide. It's near a river. It would have taken a lot of water to supply a living organism that big with an 8 mile wide base. And again, the height, I couldn't even begin to speculate. It's hard to wrap your mind around something that could be that tall, and you know it had to be many miles tall. There's another example up here. Looks like yet another ancient tree stump. Got a river here. You got what looked like little arteries running through it. I'm sure at one time those supplied water to a very tall structure, which is right here in north central Madagascar. If you go over here to the west coast of Madagascar, you'll find yet another, what looks like to me, a very good example of a tree, or what used to be an old tree. This is the stump. You've got the primaries, which are the rivers. That's its primary source of water, probably right next to the roots, and the root systems go probably many miles deep. We'll measure this one for perspective purposes just from edge to edge. 8.5 miles long. It's about the same size as the one next door. Let's measure its side height. Go from here to here. There you go. And there's your structure. It goes up about 1,175 feet. And it's 8.5 miles across. It's got 2 rivers and a lot of secondaries that fed it water at one time. You'll also find in this area, if you look close, they're a little harder to see. There's other examples over here, what to me looks like once was an old tree, old tree, old tree. I just showed you one over on the left. If you look closely in this area here to the left of this big structure, you'll find what look like occasionally some sort of a large seed that is laying next to a branch or a leaf, like in this case here. There are examples if you look closely, and those things are like 27 feet wide in some examples. But here's another picture of the landscape that you'll find next to that stump that I shared with you guys yesterday, and to me that's undeniable. Those are some sort of leaves from a big tree from long, long ago. And you know, Earth is a fascinating place, and this is just one of the many fascinating aspects of our planet. So enjoy, guys. That's on Google Earth. Once again, in central Madagascar. There are more than one example in this area. Have fun looking around. Thanks for watching. Have a super day. Be safe out there.
All right, today we're talking about melted buildings, mountains being melted buildings. Not necessarily all of them, and I'll get to the what some of the other stuff is. Electromagnetically scarred, electric discharge, plasma scarred Earth. Talk about fulgurite, stuff like that. But look, it looks like deserts or even brick ash for the most part. Look at this, right? Look at this. It's just a melted castle, right, out in the desert. And then this one's in Russia. This is like the Church of St. John, I think it's called, in Russia. And it's like they didn't just decide to they didn't carve it because you'll see blocks or bricks, right? And I don't think they just decided to build in some places and not build in other places. And it just makes no sense that it's in this state other than it got heat damage. And yes, brick can melt. Brick, it takes, I think, like 1,100 to 1,300 degrees Celsius, depending on what the brick is made of, to where it will start to become viscous and swell up and merge with the other bricks. It'll start to lose that red color, and it'll end up looking just like stone. And, there's no other explanation for this church being in this state. They didn't just, hey, let's build the bottom of it and then, go to the top and build this little like golden steeple on it, but we'll just, build into and around all of this rock. That just doesn't make any sense. So they lie to us about everything, right? So there in the Himalayas, you can see these bricks or blocks, or, we could just call it geopolymer, right? Blocks, bricks, whatever you want to call it. It'll be different in different cases, but they're towers, right, with triangle tops. And these things in Turkey that they will tell you are fairy chimneys, and they're natural formations from millions of years of rain and wind. No, there was a lot of heat that damaged this realm at one point, and nobody carved this. Nobody started like throwing random bricks up. There's pockets of survival because this was melted by like electric heat, like electromagnetic heat, probably plasma. Could have even been piezoelectric forces from below, right? But this is a very good slide. There's a lot of people who've, researched this. I think this is KL. I can sketch you on Facebook, but you can see just normal bricks compared to when they start to get misshapen, swollen, charred, when they start to kind of become viscous and meld together. And even the mainstream, right, will admit that brick can melt, because there's this fort in Russia called Fort Zverev, and they claim they have no real idea how it melted, maybe some kind of experimental weapons malfunction. But like normal heat does not, like normal fire doesn't get hot enough to melt bricks. So maybe not the same event melted all the bricks all across this realm, but in my opinion, that some of it was plasma. And whether it came from above via, the squatter man plasma apocalypse, or below via some kind of like ley line, telluric current, old world circuit board potentially, or just natural piezoelectric forces, right? And you can see all the mountain ranges have this Lichtenberg figure, this Lichtenberg pattern, and that's the exact pattern that electricity makes. So on the bottom left, you see electricity going through wood, and some of the other pics there are of mountain ranges. So, I think it's clear nobody decides to build like this. Who's throwing random bricks up in here? And you can't tell me this is erosion, because erosion takes away, it doesn't add. They are spots where there are layers of amorphous, like weird-shaped, blobbish rocks, quote-unquote, on top of these bricks, and parts where you can clearly see it's charred. And even some of the bricks are charred, but some of them are red. This is a heat event. This isn't, same here. Nobody just threw up some blocky, bricky things next to the, in between and around this weird natural formation. You can kind of still see brick lines in the quote-unquote natural part, right? It's just all... it's just muffed, as some people say, right? With Tartarian Meltdown, shout out to that guy. Deborah Simpson is really awesome on Facebook too, the red brick chick. But this is in Arizona, Casa Grande, and it's the narrative on it's crazy. They want to say it's some like Spanish fort or something that they threw up, but I think most of it's already gone. But in parts of it, they left us the clues, It can't be erosion because that takes away, and there are clear evidence of brick underneath what they'll tell us, So a lot of cases it's just brick with facade, and then the facade wears away and the brick melts due to this event. And here you see it's even underground, right? Even these like caves that they quote unquote caves or quote unquote mines, right? Caves are just pockets of preservation, right? A lot of times potentially covered by their own melted brick or desert or brick ash or whatever you want to call it, right? And you can see here where the bricks are still surviving on the ceiling a little bit. And it's just, the more you look at pictures of people exploring caves, you can see that they're not natural. And a lot of mines are not natural either, and they're not carved out by people looking, hoping to find, metals and gold and stuff. They knew exactly where it was because like most hills and mountains, as you'll see, are just melted brick structures. And here's a cave, right, where eventually if this melts some more or melts a little differently, they'll tell you it's stalactites or stalagmites, whichever one come from the ceiling, right? But it's just melted brick dripping down. And these old world structures have plumbing. So when the thing melts, the plumbing breaks too. And a lot of this stuff gets cooled off mid-melt, and then the water continues to go. A lot of waterfalls come from these old ancient melted megastructures, and that's the minerals that come kind of add to the brick, and then it eventually looks natural because it gets run over so much by calcified or whatever water, mineralized water. Again, nobody builds like this. Nobody just, these are survivor bricks because electrical charge does not distribute evenly. Some areas are more resistant. Think of the pattern, the Lichtenberg pattern, right? It takes the easiest natural course for it to flow, and some things are conductive and some things are not conductive of electricity. And there's differing levels of it, right? So, you find this no matter where you look, underground, right? Just evidence of just buried bricks. And some of it, buried in mud. Maybe there was a flood, but could also be melted brick mixed with water that would basically be like mud too. So, but everywhere you look, this is in Toowoomba. And it's just, there's no way this stuff that they tell us is like natural formations just from millions of years of wind and water erosion. It doesn't make sense when you start to see so many structures made of bricks and the transitionary stages from, obviously that's brick to, wow, yeah, that's brick, but it's messed up, to like, whoa, you can barely tell that was brick, right? And just to show how many phases there are and how many ways that just stuff could get ruined. And, maybe all these aren't melted, right? Or you don't even have to say melted, right? It's heat damaged, but you see the charring, you see some swelling, you see some discoloration, and it didn't hit everywhere at the same level. But you look at deserts and you start finding these pockets of brick construction under the surface of the desert. So that's what makes me think that a lot of these things are covered in their own melt or covered in their own ash, basically, if it's in the desert, if there wasn't enough water to turn it into mud or whatever. But look, if a lot of this stuff, if it was any further gone, it could totally pass for a natural formation, especially if that was the narrative given, right? But in a lot of these other foreign countries, they'll straight up say this is whatever so-and-so castle, right? And they'll tell you this, there used to be a castle, right? But it'll be stuff where you can barely tell. But here's a great example of a brick. It's definitely a brick. And one side, it got, charred, heat damaged. It didn't do a whole lot, and it didn't swell the brick up. It depends on the level of heat and how long the heat is applied and what the brick is made of. Because brick can be made of a lot of different materials, and I don't want to limit it to just brick. There could be a lot of other geopolymers, but stuff like this, you couldn't, now that I have these eyes to see these transitionary states, and that most of the things that I've ever thought were natural formations are melted brick structures, never in a million years could you convince me that this stuff is natural. You can see like cross-hatching and patterns and just brick lines, things that are in straight lines, and I just don't buy it, right? And just how do you explain stuff like this, right? Where it's clearly evidence of construction, but also charred, just charred. There's unexplained heat damage all over. They'll even, in the mainstream, will admit that the Egyptian pyramids are unknown heat scarring, right? The same thing with some forts in Scotland, I believe. And look here. Oh, they just decided to go up there and build a little golden, probably etheric conductor on top of this random natural formation that's kind of, how awkward, how hard that would be. And you just see this mishmash of random ruined stuff everywhere, where it just makes no sense that they would have built like that. And wind and water erosion just can't possibly explain what we're looking at, So this is, I wanted to show the transition, how this can possibly transition. So this is something that's as big as a mountain, one of these Tibetan monasteries, right? Over probably in, Tibet, right? But as it starts to, get damaged, like that's one. This is a different one. Do you think they just built this one half-heartedly, or do you think it used to look like the first one and something really bad happened to ruin most of it, right? I mean, you still see the gold stuff over there. They didn't just build a partial one here. This is just what's left of what used to be that other one. And look, when it just continues and continues and continues to get ruined or heat damaged, or, some of this may be erosion, some of this may be caused by a flood or whatever, but I think most of it is heat damage. And you can see the different stages, and pretty soon it'll be a natural formation. And look what I saw in Phoenix, right? When I went on a hike with some of my buddies, when I went up there to see some music. I took a picture of that, like, man, it looks like that used to be level, and heat ruined the whole thing, and it caused it to slant with the left side kind of caving in and giving in first, right? And to me, I just don't think that's caused by a volcano or the tectonic plates crashing together or whatever, because the more and more and more I look at stuff, right? This is in Saudi Arabia, and they call this thing a university. And if you look at the top, you see that little dome thing that, the rest of it is in ruins, and you can barely tell that it's actually something, right? That if there's a little bit more ruin, they could convince us it was a natural formation. But then this is at the top, right? And this is just massive. This is in like Jordan or Saudi Arabia or Iraq or somewhere in the Middle East. But it just blows my mind that they pulled this on us, right? That they convinced us that this was that so much of this was natural or carved, when if you really, really look closely, right, you can see that it is just heat damaged. And, I put one of a couple comparison pics in here to end it. They call these capital, these are capital style buildings with the copper roofs, right? And the top formation is in the Capitol Reef National Forest in the Southwest. And it looks like the same copper on top, right? And probably this was brick. The facade is gone. Heat damaged it, and it looks like this now, right? And same thing here. This is called like church rock or dome rock or something. I think it's in Utah or Colorado. But it looks exactly like a dome structure, or like this this structure that was from the St. Louis World's Fair, which, shoot, that's a whole nother rabbit hole and a whole nother episode. But I think that there's just no question to say that these are melted structures. These are heat damaged structures. Not completely melted, but definitely heat damaged. So I posted this in a geology group, and they kicked me out right away. But this is Sphinx Rock in Katoomba in Australia. And they will look at you with a straight face and tell you this is a natural formation. It's a mountain, just eroded by wind and water. But look, that's such that's a column. That's a column of some sort, and there's clear signs of intelligent construction, right? And then we see things like this, these temples in Indonesia or Burma, right, where this whole thing's, now if you look, those are brick. It's just gold facade, and you look at the one thing on the right, and you cannot tell me that is not melted, heat damaged, and it's just a portion of it survived, right? It's a little pocket of preservation. And what most likely happened is, the miners knew that all the mountains and hills, for the most part, were melted buildings, and they knew that the old world used a lot of metal in their buildings, and whatever caused this, whether it was from below, like I talked about, or from above with the Squatter Man plasma apocalypse, that melted the metals that they went on to claim as mine. Right? They were just mining the metals of the melted past, right? But anyway, hope you all enjoyed. Have a great day.
As we can see, buildings were melted into mountains by the fervent heat of Yahusha HaMashiach coming down for the millennial reign when it started. The evidence is pretty clear. These are no natural formations. These are definitely melted buildings. Most of the formations that we see are either these melted buildings, the bodies of the Titanic Nephilims, or the remains of the giant trees that we see mentioned all throughout Scripture? Take a look for yourselves. Study this out and see. The history that we're told by the mainstream is nothing but lies and fabrications to cover up the truth of Yahuah and His Word. The evidence is all around us. These shapes do not form naturally. This is what remains of the petrified giants, the trees, and the cities, all before the flood, all before the millennial reign. Look at this spine at the top of a mountain. A Titanic Nephilim creature's spine, perhaps? I believe so. There's proof all around us of the existence of Yahuah, of the truth of His Word. There's a spiderweb of lies put out there by Hasatan himself to entangle, to distract, to lead you away from the truth of Yahuah. There's a net of truth that we can see all around us that proves His Word is truth. We see axes, we see weapons, we see faces, we see bodies, we see tree trunks, we see melted buildings all around us. Our eyes have been closed because of the lies we've been told. Our ears have been stopped from hearing the truth. We've all been brought up in these lies. The lies about our history, about our earth, the lies to cover up the word of Yahuah. These connections go so very deep, and they all link back to the very beginning, the word of Yahuah. Most of the mountains that we see around us are either these ancient trees, ancient Nephilim bodies, or ancient cities. They lie about all of this. Is it to perhaps cover up that the millennial reign already came? Are all these buildings what was melted and burned up when the Son of Man came in the clouds? All right. So, as you can see, there's a lot of deep connections in the scriptures here. And while I'm at it, let me go ahead and share my screen because I have many of the verses up here. So, Sumi, I know you're really interested in, I saw your question in there. So, we went over the fervent heat, the fire, the consuming fire of Yahuah. That is His wrath, His burning anger, the whirlwind, things like that. So, I believe what we see as these melted buildings, the ones that are turned into these ash or dirt or dust, like the mountains, like the Grand Canyon, like Sodom and Gomorrah that we saw, all these different places were from the fervent heat of when Yahusha came in the clouds, the coming of the Son of Man, because He comes with a fervent heat. Fire is judgment, it's wrath, it cleanses. So before He comes down, it has to be cleansed. So, thank you. All praise to the Most High Yahuah. So, I wanted to go over a couple verses here as well to dig a little bit deeper in that. And this is going to pertain with, well, what we read in Enoch as you can see the importance of the trees of Lebanon, as you can, as you saw, that one tree was like over 8 miles wide. The leaves themselves were just gigantic. I believe it has to do with that tree that we read about in Daniel 4:11. But let's read Matthew chapter 24 and 28 through 30. So wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. And immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will no longer give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. So in the past, we've gone over that these events that we just read about have already happened in history. There's actual historical evidence of the sun going dark. There's evidence of the day the stars fell from the sky. We continue to see these blood red moons. But let me continue. So at that time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So we see the coming of the Son of Man. He is the light. We see he's the sword, the fire that comes from his mouth. We see fire it's the wrath of Yahuah is what it is. It's the judgment. So I believe these melted buildings and things that we see like that are what remains of the cities that were once there before New Jerusalem came down. And then the what do you call them? The temples and like cathedrals and these churches that have those cymatic patterns in them. I believe that those ones specifically, I believe they have a chance that they were spoken into existence by Yahusha during the millennial reign, and they were used for healing of the nations is what it was. And so all the melted bricks, the things like that we saw, this has everything to do with that wrath of Yahuah. And I wanted to also remind everybody about how we are the Ephraim awakening in the season of deception, because Ephraim awakens after the time of Jacob's trouble. And this all pertains to that as well. We are Ephraim. We're the ones waking up. This is the great deception. Let's see. So Psalm 21:9, I want to go over as well. And this is really going to solidify that. So depending on which translation you read, I'll just read it right here from the right-hand side. Yeah, we are Ephraim awakening. I do have a little video on my channel, on my YouTube, going over that when we did go over it, but let me continue. So it says, you will place them in a fiery furnace at the time of your appearing. In his wrath, Yahuah will engulf them, and the fire will consume them. And you will wipe their descendants from the earth, and their offspring from the sons of men. So this is that fiery furnace, that fiery wrath when he appears. We know the word of Yahuah is the visible image of Yahuah, him appearing in a fiery wrath to bring the judgment on the wicked. You know, when the Pharisees and the Sadducees and, really that whole lot of people, when they killed the son, they did the worst thing imaginable in history. They killed the son, the visible image of Yahuah. Then they proclaimed, put it on us and our children. But we see in scriptures that, so all the blood from the prophets up until Zechariah, I believe it was, will be on that generation. We see that happening with this wrath coming down, melting and burning everything around. Possibly, so the Titan Nephilim animals, like the snake and the elephants and things like that, there's much more than that. But I believe, like, he was, like, the gentleman was explaining how half of the mountain was, like, caved in and things like that. This could have happened at that great earthquake with the fire and the wrath and all that. Because as we read in Enoch, their bodies were going to remain until the time of judgment. So their bodies are still there, but they went through that coming of the Son of Man. Therefore, turning them into what they look like now. Same thing with the cities. These ancient trees that we see in Scripture, the cedars of Lebanon. It's, like I said earlier, cedar is a very valuable wood. It really doesn't rot. It doesn't, like, it prevents insects and things like that. It's very durable. And we are basically compared to those type of cedars all throughout Scripture as well. But then,
Shalom, Jay.
oh, hey, Shabbat Shalom. And yeah, sorry, if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to add, feel free. Either in the chat or wherever. But yeah, this is it's all very eye-opening to me. This is something I've been studying out for quite some time, and it just all fits with just the word of Yahuah. Going back, it shows and proves that his word is truth, absolute truth. We see it with his fingerprint. We see it in mathematics. We see it physically around us with these different mountains and things like that. And so I'm not saying every single mountain and things like that are one or the other, but most of them and a lot of them most likely are. Yeah, the volcano from the sky. And then, so same thing we're going to read here in Malachi 4, verse 1. It says, "For behold, the day is coming, we're burning like a furnace, and all the arrogant and every evildoer will be stubble. The day is coming when I put them ablaze, says Yahuah of hosts. Not a root or branch will be left to them." So we see the same thing kind of repeated here as we read in Psalms. And then 2 Thessalonians 1, 7 and 8. "And to grant relief to you who are oppressed, and to us as well." This will take place when Yahusha HaMashiach is revealed from heaven with his mighty angels in blazing fire, inflicting vengeance on those who do not know Yahuah and who do not obey the Besorah of our Messiah Yahusha. Sorry, it's throwing me off not reading like y'all scriptures, but we see he comes in that blazing fire. No, it's all good, Kat. Shabbat Shalom, Aliyah. No worries, no need to apologize. Yahuah powers the sun, his heat will kill us in a second. Yeah. If everybody's having a good day. Yeah, absolutely. I also pray you're having a Baruch day as well. And yeah, when he appeared in Exodus on Mount Sinai. But again, we just see he comes in a blazing fire. And then I'll read Daniel here at chapter 3, 20 through 25. "And he commanded some mighty men of valor in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and throw them into the blazing fiery furnace. So they were tied up wearing robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, and they were thrown into the blazing, fiery furnace. The king's command was so urgent, and the furnaces so hot, that the fiery flames killed the men who carried up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So here we see, well, it's a different version, but we see that fire representing the wrath of Yahuah. Because they were all true to Yahuah, they stuck to him, his ways. The fiery furnace did not affect them. And actually, this is where if you continue to read on, we see that fourth one that shows up in there. That's Yahusha, HaMashiach. That's what I believe. But this fiery wrath is what I believe is what melted all these different buildings and things like that we see before. That's what remains. And then what we see as like these Tartarian buildings and things like that, these were constructed and made, during the millennial reign. A lot of these churches and cathedrals, I believe they were literally spoken into existence to be healing for the nations by Yahusha. Make a movie about it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, they won't though, because maybe they will, because it is truth. But it will continue to go on. There's so many verses about the fire is being Yahuwah's anger. Came forth fire from Yahuwah. Who can withstand his indignation? Who can endure his burning anger? His wrath is poured out like fire. Even rocks are shattered before him. And that's Nahum 1:6. I mean, that says a lot right there in itself. Yeah, they do toss in truth and portray it as fiction, which is also why I wanted to go over some scriptures about the North as well. And I actually wanted to cover a little bit about the fire as well, because not only does it represent his wrath, but fire also refines. And I know, being on this narrow path, we all go through very difficult times, things that can weigh on us heavily. And it just, going through that fire can burn out the impurities. It's all about refinement. I know some things can feel very tough, very difficult to go through. I know many of us have been going through it lately. And just know I'm in prayer for each and every one of you. And it's good to have each other, truly. But we see that it's the burning fire of Yahuwah's wrath. And then, of course, Revelation 20. This is really about the camp of the saints. And it says, so Revelation 29, and they marched across the broad expanse of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. But fire came down from heaven and consumed them. So this is that Gog-Magog war. This is what we read in 2 Ezras, the city that is hidden and the land that is hidden until its time of revealing. That's the Gog-Magog war. The 4, so the video kind of covered it. We covered it last time, but in the north there, the 4 islands with the 4 rivers off the Mercator map, I believe it is. But many other maps as well depict it. But it's that same place in the north that we see Enoch describing as well. Kind of giving little teasers here for, all about the north, which is going to be the next part of this. But like I said, next week I do want to get into the Torah portions and things like that again. We're not stopping those. We just kind of put them on hold for a moment here. because Yahuah just really put it on me very strongly to cover this topic. And it's because not many people really understand it. They don't know about it. And all these different connections have never been made to them. So I just wanted to share it because really, this is me personally, my point of view I've had through my own personal studies, that I believe we have the correct calendar, that I believe, we're on that correct path. There's just, like the guy earlier was saying, how many coincidences before it becomes a fact? I don't believe in coincidence. There is no coincidence. It's all Yahuah's will, is what it is. But this all connects so deeply to not only the calendar, the shape of our realm, Earth, the New Jerusalem, the season of deception that I really believe that we are in. And it's okay for people to disagree about that, but I strongly believe through Scripture and a whole lot more evidence that we are in that time. And I know Miranda does a really good job explaining a lot of that in her presentations as well, which if you haven't seen, I definitely recommend checking them out. And I'm pretty excited for the next part as well. But it's not easy to put these together, trust me. But really, there's a main point to all this, and it's just to connect it back to the physical evidence of Yahuah. Not only physical, but in his artist's signature, as you can say, the fingerprint of Yahuah. Light being the visible image of the Word. It connects so very deep, and it's only strengthened my trust and my belief in Yahuah. And I truly pray that it does the same for everybody as well. The enemy likes to take things, twist them, and hide them, use them for his own, twisted purposes. But we see, it's like I've always explained in the past. There's, the left, the right. Yahuah is always right there in the midst. And you are welcome, Sister Tracy. Yahuah put 4 people on my heart to share this video with once uploaded. Thankful to have true family. Well, it's all praise to the Most High, sister, and thank you. That truly means a lot. I believe it's an important topic, and if we can all just come together, study things out, regardless of our small differences, we can bring, sorry, let me rephrase this. We can each bring our different piece of the puzzle, and then we slowly put it together. Yeah, Yahuah put us all here for a reason. He sure did. He put it on me to create the fellowship. I mean, there was, honestly, for an example, like when bad things actually come out to be a blessing. I know you all know Katrina, so if it wasn't for her, this fellowship wouldn't have been started. And so I do have to praise Yahuah and thank him for that. It was definitely, those of you who've been here, it was not the easiest time. And I'm not going to get into that, but it can be a blessing. And going through trials and tribulations and struggles, it's really all part of the walk. And actually next week, I do want to get into more of like going through Job, because he goes through different trials and tribulations, and he stands hard for Yahuah. He may not always be right, but he does stand for Yahuah, and he doesn't budge. So it's tough. It really is. But that's part of walking that narrow path. Is really it just shows us we are on the right path. And we all have to go through dumb stuff. We sure do. Let's see, how
Hey,
long have we
Jeremy,
been going?
would you
Oh yeah,
mind if
go.
I share some fun stuff if I can?
Yeah, go right ahead, brother.
So those videos that you showed, I've seen pretty much most of the sort of channels there. It made me go out and look at stones. So if I could share my... Oh, how do I turn that around? Don't want to see my ugly face, do you? Here we go. So I go out looking at rocks now. I don't know whether you can see this, but this is a heart. It's got 4 chambers. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can even see some of the valves within the chambers there. And above it, you've got the entrances of the aorta and the other main veins and arteries going into the heart there. So this is just me having fun walking around, kicking stones around and using, getting carried away with my imagination. I've also got something here that really unusual. It looks like it could be a brain or something like that, doesn't it? This is all petrified organs. And this thing here, I don't know whether it's a vein, probably a vein because it's black, but that is absolutely stuck in there. I can't get it out. And it looks a bit like that quartz, obviously black, but you know, it's funny how these two, what would have been organic matters, existed together, and when they get petrified, they actually change their composition to something a bit different. And then walking around, I see something completely round, and it's a stone. It's unbelievable. So a bit of fun, but really, when you're kicking stones around, have a look. You might find something interesting. And to me, I mean, this was me trying to prove that the flood happened. This is all petrified organic matter. But since then, obviously, we've fallen into the little season as well. Anyhow, just a bit of fun.
No, thank you. That's actually really cool. Thank you for sharing that, brother. And yeah, I believe so these titans and things like that, like they are what's remnant and proof of Noah's flood. And like you were showing there with the stones, so the video of the guy, he was talking about the elephant mountain on his channel. It's Stellium 7, I believe. But he goes and he walks through these different riverbeds and things like that, and just like what you found, and he believes that there are different organs and things like that left over from like the flood. This is what we see as these round stones, like the one you had with the look like 2 eye sockets there. Like very interesting. I should get a picture of this. I got a big it's a huge liver shaped stone, and it's actually blood red. I should take a picture of it and share with you all.
I've been near to the mountain where that guy's been. I think it's Mount Go, is it called? I can't remember. Mount Go, something like that. I have always gone to Spain for a week just to have a chill out week by myself, get away from the wife and kids. And I used to go to a place called Alicante. Now, Alicante sounds very much like elefante, which is elephant in Spanish. So this Alicante has a main hill, really, and I oh, gone.
Oh, did we lose you there, brother? Right when it was getting exciting too. He dropped out. He must have either gotten a phone call or lost signal, because I've gotten a phone call and it takes you right out of Telegram. Yeah, we lost Ken for a moment. Actually, that's really interesting. I haven't known anybody to, well, personally, that's gone to that specific mountain. And that's really interesting that, you know, Ken of all people, he's been there. But yeah, there's so many different aspects and connections, and really it's going to come to there's a means to an end is why I'm presenting all this. And one, Yahuah put it on me, and two, it's very important information. It's helped me to understand what a couple of our brothers have been going through, suffering from different frequencies, being in pain, things like that. It's helped to understand, you know, that season of deception that I believe we're in as well. It all connects to all of this so very deeply. There's too many coincidences for it to be dismissed, truly. Let's see. Hopefully Ken comes back in, because I was interested in his story there. You're in the country. It's against the law to shoot down the Gwen towers. Unfortunately, they usually don't like that type of stuff. But yeah, so really this all just connects on a very deep level. It goes with the time of deception that we're in. So I truly believe that, you know, we are after that millennial reign, but we are before the Gog-Magog war, which would kick off Judgment Day. And we still have that hope of making it to the new, renewed kingdom, I should say, as the other nations. It's not a lost hope. It's not preterism in any kind of way. It's what we see and we can find throughout scriptures, even like all the evidence that we've seen, events that have happened in our past. It comes together, and it paints a bigger picture is what it is. Especially when you have a foundation in scripture, like Sumi was saying earlier, or sharing earlier. I probably have to scroll up to read it. It's probably way too far up, but it is important to have that foundation in scripture, you know, test everything to his word and have that personal relationship with Yahuah. I know things can get tough, things can get rough, but it's all part of walking that narrow path. And, you know, we're not under the fire of his judgment, but we are under the fire of refinement. And there's a difference. Sometimes we can think that suffering is a punishment, or it's actually just a lesson that we need to learn. And just like our children, for example, you know, you can tell them so many times when they don't listen to you, then they go do it. Then they find out, oh, well, that's why he was telling me not to do that. So we got to learn the hard way sometimes, and self-reflection, very much key. You know, finding others who are like-minded, like we have here. Just dwell in his word daily. Sometimes life can get busy. I know, especially the last couple of weeks, it's been pretty overwhelmingly busy for me, but in a good way. Sometimes. Others not so good, but for the most part in a good way. So building towards some goals and making things happen, all for Yahuah. And trusting in Yahuah more, really. It can be hard to trust in him, especially when, we're under a lot of pressure. And we just have to remember he will take that and he will direct us and guide us and show us where to go. Sometimes it doesn't happen immediately, but it will happen. You just got to trust in him. Looks like Ken may not be coming back, unfortunately. I wonder if his phone died. But yeah, if anybody has anything they would like to add or, talk about, feel free. Feel free to open up your mics. I encourage it, actually. It's good to hear all your voices. And yeah, you can ask in the chat as well if you like. Sounded like his phone died. Yeah, it probably did. Anyone doing this is now called a that, according to the owner of Flock. Yeah, those Flock cameras, I'm sure you all have heard about them. I shared a few videos about that a few months ago, actually, and just part of that B system, the tracking, the tracing, the whole season of deception. Nothing new under the sun.
Yes, Beast System 2.0.
Correct.
I was at a lady's house the other day doing some work as a trade out, and out of nowhere, one appeared on what's called North Shore Road at Lake Tawakoni. And it is a very rural lake community. And there aren't any other cameras anywhere near it. In fact, I don't see very many at all out here. But that kind of surprised me because it was right in front of a large ranch that has a deer fence all the way around it, meaning they probably raise deer. And it was just filthy dirty, like it hadn't been maintained for quite a while. I thought that was odd. But yeah, they're popping up in the southern part of Dallas, in Mesquite and Balk Springs. But I saw another video about the Axon cameras, AXON. And they're the ones that make the body cams for the police. So they're making a plug-and-play camera that goes into a standard street light. So it looks like they're getting smarter about not being able to allow others to come and cut them down like they do in the UK. They have ULEZ cameras, ULEZ, I think. And they're getting cut down all over the place. But I just thought that was really weird. And one of the other things I have seen is every third or fourth street light on Greenville Avenue in North Dallas, these things are 12 inches in diameter for the first 9 to 12 feet tall. And then they morph into a regular street light. But the 12-inch section has vents in it, like several of them. And that hints at computerized mechanics inside that create a lot of heat. And on top, they have the blue tinted street lights and also internet connection antennas at the very top. And those have shown up in 3 different entertainment districts, where a lot of the bars and cool shops are. So, yeah, they're working on it. It's not as quick, thankfully, as I'm sure they would like. But there are none out here where I am. Even though there's a few in Terrell, I have yet to see any of them. but they're on the camera map that you can find. There's several of them online. And yeah, that drone that Micah just posted, that's not fun. So I think that's what the data centers are for. It's not just keeping data or distributing it. It's a computing base for AI to control all kinds of things. Not only the block alphas, but I think robots as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's like you said, it's all part of that beast system 2.0. And Shabbat Shalom, Jermaine. Good to see you here. I was literally just thinking about that while looking through here. I was like, hey, Jermaine's not here. But there you are. I pray you are doing well, sister. But yes, Shabbat Shalom. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. I just said Shabbat Shalom and I had a bit of a sleeping.
Yeah, no worries. It's okay. Been keeping you in prayer, sister.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And like Tracy said here, like an episode of Stranger Things, correct? That's what it is. It truly is, but an actual state of it. So yeah, there's a lot of things they are putting, well, I should say implementing for that beast system. You know, the digital ID, digital currency, the tracking and tracing. It starts off with, oh, we got, illegal immigrants and things, and we need this to track and trace them. Well, it starts that way, and it's an excuse to then release it to the rest of the population. And nobody says or thinks otherwise because they're like, oh, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, that's a mindset. If you watch these news stations and they talk about these different cameras and all kinds of stuff, and the majority of people they interview, they're just like, oh, if you're not doing anything wrong, then why worry about it? That's the type of mind and thinking that they want us to have. Like, who cares how much they're controlling us as long as we're not doing nothing wrong? No, it's a bad way of thinking. It really is. That's how they gain control. And they repeat these narratives and things so much and so often because, well, that is a form of witchcraft, spellcasting. When you say something over and over again, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, because they haven't read 1984 yet. The documentary 1984. It's a novel, but yes. Simpletons will be whining like a baby when they learn the truth. Yeah. And that's the thing is they get us to think all this stuff is just make-believe and, a bunch of fairy tales. The truth is right in front of their face, but because we've been trained in Babylon just to, follow the leader, believe what the guy with the doctorate or PhD says, nothing else. Don't worry about what it looks like. Don't worry about what your eyes see. Believe what this guy is saying. Then you're not even looking at through things with your own eyes. You're looking at through a perspective, a narrative that they've fed you. And sometimes it can be very hard to overcome that. The cognitive dissonance. What happened in 84? No, no, it's a book, Sumi. It's a book. It's titled 1984. It's about a very dystopian future that, well, resembles exactly what we are speaking about. They even had a ministry of truth. They did all the tracking and tracing, digital ID, digital currency, basically, all this. And it's no coincidence that, what was it, a few years ago now, the White House here in America established this ministry of truth, the same exact name as in the novel. But then, they got fact checked and proven wrong and got shut down, which is ironic. But anyways, it just shows like the brainwashing and fear-based control that they try to push on all of us. That's why it's important to have that foundation in Scripture, fear only Yahuah. Because fear is a form of submission as well. Yeah, it's by George Orwell, yes. Yeah, the Ministry of Truth, yeah. They even named it. It was around for like a few months, I think. And yeah, I don't want to say too much of this on YouTube, but yeah, the cameras, they read your license plate and things like that. They take facial recognitions. They track exactly where you're going, what you're doing. Yeah, it's all connected. So it's connected to that spider web of lies from Hasatan. So a spider web tangles you up, it entraps you, it deceives you, then you end up being somebody's lunch. That's really what we are to, these predator elite class. They don't care about us. We're just cattle to them. But Yahuah has a net of truth. And what do nets do? They catch you. They keep you safe. They keep you from falling. You can climb back up them. And they don't entrap or entangle you. As long as you have good balance. But you know what I'm saying. Yeah, so the whole world is a stage. That's why they use that term. They use all these different terminologies to not only mock Yahuah. So like you saw on the video, John Levi, he had that black rock in the center of the table, and he made the comment, what company on earth isn't controlled by this company, this corporation? And as you could see, that picture was black rock in the center of the round disc. They literally mock Yahuah by doing these things. That's exactly what it is. That black rock in the center of the earth, Mount Zion. This is why I'm going to go into the importance of the North, the next presentation. And like I said, we've covered it a little bit in the past about the calendar and things. But I really want to go really in depth with nothing but scriptures. And everything I've found, nobody really knows much about the importance of the North. There's some, little season channels here and there that they talk about the importance of the North. Or not importance, but they talk about the North, but not importance. Some perhaps, but it's going to be something I'll be personally putting together, just walking through all the scriptures about it. And Yahuah willing, it's going to be fascinating. Yeah, all the AI stuff. Yeah, no, especially big companies like that, Tracy. Yeah. Century 21, that's a big one. They all push the whole AI system. Oh, get on board with AI. You're not going to be able to keep up if you don't use AI. So all these businesses and corporations, and it trickles down to the mom and pop stores even. Because I notice a lot of them are using like AI things and ads and all kinds of stuff. So maybe that's actually something I kind of did want to talk about for a moment. People who take their time. So what I do, every thumbnail that I make for the YouTube channel, every presentation I put together, writing up all my articles and my different blogs and things, that's from me personally. I take the time to write these things out. I take the time to create these different images and things like that, the ones with scripture in them. I take the time to search out these different verses, and just, it's all for Yahuah. The thing is AI is making all that so easy for anybody to do that. And I've been accused a few times of using AI, and you can go back on my channel. I've been doing this since well before AI was a thing. It's when you do things over time, you get a knack at doing them. So while yes, sometimes they can be tedious and time consuming, taking a lot of study, like once you get the basic like the software and all that down, like it's pretty easy to kind of put things together with efficiency and speed. So, I just wanted to mention that because AI is part of the beast system. I don't condone it. I don't recommend it. Some people may use it as a tool and things like that. So sometimes it's getting to the point where you can't even do like a standard search without the AI jumping in automatically. So I do my best to avoid it. I'm not saying someone's bad or evil if they do use it, but I believe it's the demon legion, the one that Yahusha cast into the pigs. This is why it's everywhere and so familiar all at once. Hasatan is not omnipresent. He cannot read our thoughts. Yahuah can. So the only way Hasatan can do things like that is with tracking and tracing, constant surveillance, brain chips and things like that they're really pushing and promoting. It's mixing that iron in the clay, and they're pushing all this to happen. And it's ancient technology. It really is. I believe all this has already all been around. They've shrunk it down to different levels, of course. Like if you open up your phone, you open up your computer, you're going to see like those chips and the boards and what look like little buildings and the gold roads that go in between everything, and nothing new under the sun. Really. Asked a question when it showed up, it flunked it. Yeah, and that's my experience as well. So when it first came about, I was like, oh, maybe it'll make searching things easier. So we did a search, and it was very thorough in its results. It was like, it was given bullet points, it was given sources that were cited and things like that. And I was like, wow, pretty amazing. Until you go and look at those sources cited, that, well, they did not exist. It literally fabricated sources to push basically the thoughts or the narrative that I was giving it. I'm not saying I was giving it a narrative, but it takes it that way. So if you say, so it was about the divider day. It was quite some time ago where we were still really, studying and searching out the physical evidence for this. And yeah, it cited like 5 or 6 different sources, and none of them were accurate. I looked into the sources, didn't say anything that the AI claimed it did. So ever since then, I was like, nope, done with it. Because it will just, how I see it is it will test you for what you know. Are you, one of these sheeple who are lost out in the world? Or are you a lamb of Yahuah, a sheep of Yahuah? Are you in his flock? So the more you know, the more it will basically admit to things, like truthful things. And it's very strange. It's used by the enemy. It definitely has no problem fabricating things. So the father of the lie, that's Hasatan. So if AI has no problem telling lies, that's a clear sign of where it comes from. My only question was, is the earth a sphere or a level plane as described in the Bible? I got the agenda answer within milliseconds. Yeah, and that's the thing. So there's a video, it's actually in one of the tabs, Scriptural Cosmology tabs we got in the library. But there's a guy, Flat Earth Dave, so I don't promote him at all or anything. He does make good videos. Be very, very wary of watching him because he's in one of those clubs. But anyways, he made a video and he was going through, he was using Chat GPT AI, whatever, and he was asking it, so can you have like just a pocket of vacuum in the center of a room? And the computer AI, whatever, was like, no, that's impossible. You have to have a physical box or a container or some kind of barrier that's there to separate the vacuum from the air around it. And it was all these legit questions. He's like, yeah, because the vacuum would just fill up the space and the air around it, correct? And it's like, yeah, correct. So it goes on for a few minutes asking those type of questions, basically painting the AI into a corner where it gave legitimate proofs that a vacuum cannot exist without, next to anything, without a physical barrier, without that vacuum filling it up or the air around it filling it in. But when it came to the earth, he started asking about that. So what about the earth? Wouldn't it be the same with that? And it just started going off with the, the gravity and all this nonsense. And he's like, but in the examples you just gave us, you said that that's physically and scientifically impossible. And it was like, well, yes, but with Earth, it's different. So it'll just run you around in circles like that. It'll admit to like, yeah, that's impossible, but it's just different. Believe what they tell us about it. And I was saying that just for an example of all the lies, like the lies about our history, about our timeline. We've mentioned in the past about the additions to the timeline and things like that. And if you haven't heard about it or looked into any of these things, I highly recommend it, especially about the events I was speaking about. The sun literally went dark for about 2 years, and this is recorded in history. The stars fell from the sky like snow, recorded in history. We see that the moon still to this day turns blood red. There's also, again, so I don't promote Josephus. Y'all know my position about him. But he writes about different events. So as much as people like to use him and quote him, they don't like to refer to his writings about, when the millennial reign was apparently going to happen. So take anything Josephus writes with a grain of salt, of course. But I mean, there's a lot of historical evidence about all this. The melted buildings, the trees. One of the last videos that showed, the whole cedar tree, the whole shape of the leaves were just, miles long, miles wide. The tree we read about in Daniel 4:11. So many other places it speaks about these gigantic trees. This all points back to the word of Yahuah being truth, absolute truth. And to deny Yahuah, to deny scripture, to deny anything about truth, you will only be fooling yourself and giving yourself over to that false deception. You'll be given over to that deception of your own heart. This is why we cannot even trust our own hearts. We have to trust Yahuah, follow him. Our heart can deceive us and lead us astray.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Speaking of trees, I've just been listening to you, but I'm trying to scour through Enoch because I'm trying to find the part where it talks about how the angels were given command before the flood to cut down all the trees because they were so high that the Nephilim and giants would have been able to climb to the tops of them and probably survive the flood. So they were commanded to cut them down, but leave the stumps. And I can't find it in Enoch anywhere now, but I know it's there.
Yeah, no, I know that's there too. Actually, I was literally thinking about that right before I started. I was like, oh man, I meant to go look for that.
Yeah, like I was thinking about it when you were talking about it, because I think it's interesting that so for the commandment or for the command for the angels to leave the stumps, this is my theory, is because we see that a lot of these mountains, there's trees all over it, right? Well, in my opinion, trees can't grow from like an actual rock, but if you leave stumps, other trees will be able to grow from that. Like I don't know if you've ever seen like a
Yeah,
tree fall like in a forest or anything, but it'll literally take nourishment from another tree. And it's crazy how they're all connected. But to me, like in order for there to be more trees after that massive flood, the stumps, which roots go down really deep, would have to be there for the regrowth of other trees. I don't know if that sounds crazy, but that's just kind of like my thinking.
no, not crazy at all. I had that same thought because so like with that Devil's Tower is what they call it. We see all the like what's it called when it comes off the side of the mountain, like the debris and like stuff like that. It kind of makes those slopes. So that's just the wearing and the weathering of the stuff falling off. And so if, for example, let's say you after fall, you just leave all the leaves on the ground, things like that. After a while, the ground underneath it will become like very fertile because all the nutrients and everything is coming from the decaying plant matter is what it is. And
The foliage or whatever.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah, because that's why like if you're doing like above ground garden beds, like if you put branches and ash and dead leaves and everything, it does. It makes the ground or makes the soil very fertile.
Yeah, exactly. So I believe that that's exactly what happened. So, you know, I should have went and looked looked up that verse as well. Like I said, I didn't think about it until just before we started, so I didn't have a chance. But
I'm trying to find it.
thank you. I know it speaks about that though, and they cut them down. So all the landmass and things like that around them. Oh, it's in Daniel 4. Oh, hold on, let me see it. I have it on 4:11. What is it? 4:14. Oh yeah. Daniel chapter 4, verse 14. He called out in a loud voice, "Cut down the tree and chop off its branches. Strip off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Let the beasts flee from under it and the birds from its branches. But leave the stump with its roots in the ground, and a band of iron and bronze around it, in the tender grass of the field. Let him be drenched with the dew of heaven and graze with the beasts on the grass of the earth." So yeah, it does speak about it there, but it also speaks about the same in Enoch as well. Yeah, very nice catch there, actually. Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah, that's almost the same verbiage that's used in Enoch.
Yeah,
But there is one directly in Enoch that talks about sending the angels to chop down all the trees, so not just one, but all.
yeah,
And because there was multiple very, very large trees before the flood. And there was this guy, I can't remember the channel, but he was talking about how um, our oxygen was different from before the flood. It was pure, and the trees were more silicone based What that means, I don't know. But I'll try to find his channel and post the link to it. But it's crazy how they are able to like find this stuff out about like the ancient trees. But if you think about it, it makes sense. In order for the people that had longer lifespans before the flood, and how much larger they were, I mean, this realm would have been larger. Or the trees would have been larger in this realm, and we would have been larger with it as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I've seen that before as well. So there was more oxygen because, well, I believe the whole earth was more of a tropical place. I mean, of course, there was cold and heat as well, but the majority of it was, I believe, a bit more tropical. And what was my point in that? Sorry. It just slipped my mind. I'll think of it here in a second. But I believe it was all around, it was very temperate at that time. And I also believe that the land was more closer together towards the north until the millennial reign came, where it, you know, the islands and the mountains fleed and things like that. But I'm trying to think of what my where I was going with that last statement. But no, we see these trees, we see they're spoken about in scripture, the cities that are being burnt. And about Sodom and Gomorrah, so Ron Wyatt's findings, I'm starting to think perhaps, like not denying what he found, but perhaps it's just the city that incurred really the most heat of Yahuah's wrath. And perhaps right where New Jerusalem was coming down, I'm not sure. But we see those sulfur balls that exist there, and that says a lot, because sulfur also shows, you know, Yahuah's wrath. It was raining sulfur. It's some of the purest sulfur found on the earth. And that speaks a lot to me. Like, instead of the hills being, you know, dust and rock, they were completely turned to ash. Looking exactly the same as the dust and rock ones, but just ash. You know, that Devil's Tower, that picture with the roots even coming down out of it, and they try to claim that that's a lava formation. Like I said in the little clip, when have you seen, you know, lava just go straight up and then dry all of a sudden? It doesn't do that. Take a look at Hawaii. Do you see that in Hawaii? No, you don't. Does any of that lava there look like anything what they say is, oh, just lava columns? No, not at all. What you do see is these different fibers in trees, these different building shapes, these different body shapes. I know there's a whole lot of controlled opposition out there, and they want to say it's only just, you know, melted buildings, or it's only just these trees, or it's only just Nephilim bodies. I believe it's all of them, as we can see, as like the evidence I showed there. And of course, it's not every single mountain and things like that, but many of them are. I cut down a boardark a year ago. There's 20 new shoots coming out from the stump. Yeah, and that's how trees work as well. They're very resilient. And yeah, I posted pictures. So we have trees like that out here in the desert. So we have like a mesquite tree, a palo verde tree is what they're called. You can let them grow up huge, cut them right down. And like Brother Kelly was stating there, you'll see like 5, 10, 15, 20 more shoots coming out from that, the stump. That's actually what the scripture was saying about here in Daniel. You know, if you put a copper rod or a band of iron around it, it actually prevents those shoots from growing. Let's see what it says. A band of iron and bronze. Yeah. So it's the iron and bronze that would prevent these shoots from sprouting out. Because I know it's more than just like trees here or a single species of tree. I know many trees, actually, if you do that. All right. Let's see. 3 hours almost. Time flies when you're having fun, huh? So yeah, next week we'll continue with the Torah portions, and then possibly the week after, maybe the week after that, depends on how long it will take me to get together everything for it, but it will be all about the importance of the North and its connection with everything we've just gone over and discussed in all these different parts and sections. So there's a lot to cover there. So I do want to continue the Torah portions. I know those are very important as well. And after the Torah portions, like when we complete them, I want to keep continuing into, the books after the quote unquote 5 books of Torah. So we'll do something like that. But this is just very important. It was something that was put on me very strongly by Yahuah to just share and get out there. I know in the past when we've spoken about these things, like in passing, people would probably be like, well, I've never heard about that and don't know what it is. So I thought I would just be able to share to show like, hey, look, this is it right here. This is why I strongly believe the way I do. This is why I believe Yahuah is absolute truth. Yeah, I enjoyed presenting it to everybody. And like I said, if anybody has any questions or anything they would like to add, if you found anything, feel free to share. And either right now, in the future, in between, wherever. Nice, Natalie. That actually sounds pretty good. I'm getting pretty hungry myself. And yeah, so the oxygen content, yeah, actually, I should have finished reading what you said there, Brother Kelly. I got distracted, my apologies. But yes, the oxygen level, it causes growth and things like that. That was my whole point, what I was speaking on earlier. So because it was more tropical, there's more trees. So like the rainforest, for example, it's called the rainforest because the trees themselves are producing what seems like rain dripping down. We see in Scripture, that's how the earth was watered, the dew that was among the earth from these trees that were there. Not because there was just rain clouds, because we also see before the flood, there was no rain. It did not rain. It was this dew that watered the earth. It didn't rain until the flood of Noah. So it's it goes so very deep. But yes, oxygen, it causes growth, like allows us to grow bigger. I believe, like, Adam and Eve, they were much larger in stature than, for example, we are today. And then the Nephilim were much larger than even that. And we could see that by these different mountains and things like that, where the remnants are remaining for us to see. We see that huge spine. That was actually on a hill or a mountain. Sorry, not a hill, but a mountain in China where that spine-like shape is found. There's so many different aspects to this, so much evidence of this. It all points to the truth of Scriptures being absolute truth. Undeniably. I like beef bacon as well. It's actually delicious. you've never had it, I definitely recommend it. Bit pricey, but worth it. Beef bacon. So yeah, if nobody else has any other questions or anything they'd like to add.
Did someone say beef bacon?
Yeah. Adding some beef bacon.
I had it for the first time not that long ago. I was trying to get turkey bacon, but they didn't have any, and so I was kind of upset. And then I saw beef bacon, and I was like, they make beef bacon? And I had gotten used to turkey bacon. Before my conviction on pork, bacon was one of my favorites. And so when I had turkey bacon, to me, like it just wasn't like crunchy, like, people that have had pork bacon, it just wasn't the same. But I mean, it was still fine, right? Like I was like, it still tastes good. It's not really what I prefer, but that's fine. Like I get used to it. Beef bacon. Oh my goodness. It makes it, it was so good. It was so good.
I agree, it's delicious. Yes. Tastes like brisket. Yeah, it does. And it's delicious. Much better than any pork bacon, I'll tell you that. Much better than turkey bacon, too. But that's all part of taking care of our temples as well, eating how scriptures lays out for us to eat. He didn't make swine and shellfish and mice and vultures and things like that for us to be consuming as food. Not at all. Fry it in butter or coconut oil. It crunches up a lot better. I'll have to try that. Coconut oil is really good for you as well. But yeah, no, I enjoy truly spending the Shabbats with all of y'all. I really needed the Shabbat and the fellowship. The past couple weeks have been pretty overwhelming, especially with work. I don't want to go into work on the Shabbat day, but yeah, it's hard. And especially when I got to work outside, it's been no joke. The temperature read 125 degrees Fahrenheit on my truck, and the thermometer on my truck. We were walking by a park, actually when it was actually cool and rainy out. So we went for a little walk, me and Kellen. And the trash can, the outside trash can was melted into the ground. It was I know about the fervent heat. Maybe that's why I'm being told to go over it so much. But anyways, it can be brutal out there. And, I know a lot of us are going through different trials and tribulations and struggles and burdens. And, you are not alone in going through them. And it's why we all have each other. It's why we all really need each other. None of us can do any of this alone. And it's good to know that we're not alone when going through these different problems. And remember, it's all just refinement in the fire, getting out the impurities, trusting in Yahuah the whole time. It can be a painful process. It can be a slow process, but it's definitely worth it to endure to the end. And yeah, if nobody else has anything further, love it myself and you as well. Your family is the most important group of people I know. Yeah, truly. And we are all so like-minded here, so that's really important as well. Anyways, yes. Awesome. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. I pray you all enjoy the rest of your Sabbath, wherever you're at. I'll be doing my best to try to continue the midweek Midrash this week. Like I said, I've been having to work a lot, and I haven't had a chance to make the time in the midweek to be able to go over that. But I am planning to continue it at some point. But if we don't meet then, which will be on Saturday, we will see you all next Shabbat. And I'll continue the Torah portions. And yeah, we might go over Job, a little reading and teaching from Job. I think that might be good and really important for all of us, myself included. But Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha, much love. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. I'm going to get this on YouTube as soon as possible. And until next time, we'll see you all. Have a Baruch Shabbat.